I've done over 20 volunteer trail projects over the years, but this was my first with the Appalachian Mountain Club, and we were in the beautiful scenery of Acadia National Park in Maine. We had the good fortune to be staying at the AMC's Echo Lake Camp, and they were still having campers that week, so we had the benefit also of not only use of all the facilities, but of being able to eat in the dining room with the chefs preparing the meals and the servers serving them and not having to do the cleanup ourselves. Housing was pretty Spartan, but otherwise we would have had to been in our own tents, so this was really pretty luxurious for us. Although there were 6 or so other campers there, most of the time we were able to get our group around one of the tables so we could eat together. The washroom facility had flush toilets as well as hot water for showers. The rec room had all sorts of games. There was a volleyball court. There was a library loaded with books. And the lake was magnificent. There were also a number of canoes and kayaks, and on our afternoon off, Ellen and I went out onto the lake and did about 4-mile paddle. Our trail project was on the Great Head Trail, a trail that had washed out over many, many years of storms. We started each day driving a half hour or so to get to the trailhead, and then we would stretch out on the road for a few minutes to get our bodies ready, and then hike in about a half a mile to get to our section of the trail. Our first job was to dig a drainage ditch which would run alongside the trail, carrying the rainwater away to prevent flooding in the future. All digging in this area, of course, meant you were running into roots, tree trunks, large boulders, and rocks of all sizes, all which had to be removed from the drainage ditch. We were also assigned to dig a ditch for a large drainage culvert to be placed under the trail, and the ladies worked on that over a course of several days. Another aspect of this job, which was a first for me, was going up on the hillside about 100 feet away from the trail and locating boulders and rocks of various sizes and bringing them down to the trail for use. We did that by way of a high line, which had been installed by the National Park Service professional trail crew. They taught us how to use it, and then we brought all the rocks down as seen in these videos. When we'd exhausted the supply of boulders and larger rocks, we started collecting smaller ones and bringing them down in these burlap bags. After we'd accumulated a big rock pile down on the trail, we grabbed the sledgehammers and break the big rocks into smaller rocks to create a rock base for the trail so it wouldn't be washed away by stormwater in the future. This was the hardest part of the job. And then when we'd finished using up all the rocks we had brought down, we brought another big batch down, created another big rock pile on the trail, and distributed the pieces after we'd sledgehammered them to smaller segments. Gradually, the new trail started taking shape. The rangers had placed stakes with flags on to show the 2 sides of the trail and a string line to show how high we had to fill the trail up with these rocks, and then the drainage ditch was being created alongside it as we built the trail up. all this arduous work and having the trail base established, dirt would be placed over the rocks and the finished trail would be taking final shape, as seen here. It's beautiful and it's strong, and it isn't going to go anywhere for a long, long time, no matter how much rain falls. While we were doing this, the professional trail crew was building a rock stairway, as seen here. One evening, everyone drove to one of the picnic areas in Acadia National Park for a lobster bake. The meal was delicious, as you could see from all these smiling faces. Each day on the trail project, we were given an hour for our lunch break from noon till 1. We ate the lunches we had made that morning back at camp, and we took a short 5 or 6 minute hike to the end of Great Head Peninsula and had wonderful views in all 3 directions as we ate our meals. And each day was beautiful weather, as you can tell from the photos. There were always boats to watch as we were eating, lobstering boats, sailcraft. Here's the fast ferry from Nova Scotia to Bar Harbor, and here's a sightseeing boat. The gulls put on a show, and of course were begging for food all the time as we were eating. One of the joys I've always found on a trail project is the wonderful people you meet. People who love the outdoors as much as you do, who have an ethic for preserving that outdoors and for making it more accessible through trail construction. And the people on this trip were no exception. It was a wonderful, wonderful group, and I will remember them for a long, long time. Now, as we say goodbye to all the wonderful scenery of Acadia National Park, here are some parting scenes for you to savor.